Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you've had a good weekend so far. Hope you have an even better week. I want to make sure that I share a few things with you to encourage you for the week. Today in worship, I'm teaching on Luke chapter 7, and it's got two beautiful pictures of Jesus' interaction with two women and a couple dudes. At the end of the book, in the end of chapter 7, Jesus is talking to this Pharisee who has invited him over to his house. And this guy's invited him over for dinner. And Jesus obliged, and he comes over, and they're sitting down around the table. When the process of him having dinner, having this big conversation, I'm sure a big religious conversation, this woman slips in. And she comes up behind Jesus, and she basically just covers his feet in her tears. She's just weeping profusely. She dries them with her hair, and then begins to anoint them with this ointment, this very important, very special, very expensive ointment that was not intended for feet. And this Pharisee doesn't say anything, but he says in his own heart, if Jesus knew who this woman was, he wouldn't let her touch him, because it was a religious rule they had created about what you could and couldn't do. And one of those was you were not to touch a sinner, especially a prostitute. And that's what this woman was. That's what she'd been redeemed from through Jesus. Now, as this man was thinking this in his heart, of course, Jesus, being awesome, he says to him out loud and says, hey, let me ask you a question. He said, if, let's say, two men owed this guy money, one owed him $20 and one owed him $20,000, and the guy said, hey, both of you are forgiven, who would be the happiest? Well, the Pharisee, of course, said, well, the guy who owed him the most. And Jesus said, you answered correctly. And then he made a very, very vital point that all of us need to understand. He said, you see, this woman here is wetting my feet with her tears, and you didn't even offer me water to wash my own feet. She's drying them with her hair. You didn't offer me a towel, and you didn't offer me oil for my head to anoint me as a welcome guest, and she is rubbing my feet with this expensive ointment. And Jesus' point was, those who are forgiven much, forgive much. And those who are forgiven much, love much. You see, this guy believed that his whole life, his whole relationship with the world, with people, and God was based on his performance and his standing on the ladder of success. And he saw himself as a good guy, and he saw her as a bad person. Now, it's one of the greatest lies in religion and Christianity, is that there are levels, that some are higher and some are lower than others. And Jesus just completely obliterates that. The sign of a changed heart is not religion, and it's not things we can do on our own, like going to church, reading the Bible, praying, giving checks, even helping people that we consider friends or family. It's much different than that. You see, it's a heart change. It's not an outward thing that any religion produces. There are Muslims that are absolutely faithful. There are people from other sects and cults that are completely faithful and good in those standards. But their hearts haven't been changed. They're not able to see the guy across the street who's struggling, who's having problems, who perhaps is a problem to me, as someone I need to love unconditionally, because that's what's happened to me. You see, that's when you know your heart has changed, because you realize, oh my gosh, I cannot believe an all-knowing God loves me, knows me, and loves me continuously, never stops, never changes. See, when you realize that, you have an understanding of who you are, and it allows you to see people for who they are through God's eyes. Not just your little judgmental schemes that we have set up to make ourselves feel better, to make ourselves feel successful, whether it's we need to have the best family, the best kids, the smartest this, the best that, all because it's this competition we set up where we believe that if we're successful in these things, that somehow God's watching and he's going to approve of us. It's a joke. This beautiful picture of this woman doing this with Jesus' feet is a picture, another picture, the opposite of our culture, that says the loser wins. This woman had no respect from her community. She was not going to walk out of there and get a great job and turn her life around. She had a reputation, and it wasn't going anywhere. She couldn't leave town. She wasn't going somewhere else. Her life was a wreck. But when Jesus walked into her life, it changed everything. And the beauty of it was her reputation didn't matter anymore, because now she had a new one. She was perfect, holy, and righteous and clean, and she loved him so much that she was willing to give him everything. She found freedom. the real freedom we want. Not the freedom to shoot our mouth off, not the freedom to just do whatever we want when we want, but the freedom to love Jesus openly and honestly. I believe that's the challenge for all of us as Christians. It's not to have these little man-made markers that help us feel better about our situation, but to really look at the fruit. Do I love my neighbor as myself? That's a check that you need to look into, you need to find out. And I'm telling you, I struggle with it greatly. That doesn't make it okay. I struggle with it greatly. I know everybody does. But let that be a mark of your walk with Jesus, not church attendance or this or that and other. Let it be something that requires God's help. Anybody can do those things. But how many of us can love unconditionally to people that have hurt us, that have harmed us, or could possibly do it in the future? I think that's going to be a huge difference in your life. I believe it'll produce more joy than you getting everything you want, because you'll find out what you were looking for wasn't the right thing anyway. So as you go into this week, I don't know what you're going to face. Trouble at work, trouble at home. Maybe it's just an awesome week. Hope you have one. I try to pray that for you guys every week, that you have a great week. But if you don't, just remember this. Worst case scenario, worst person in town had the greatest worship experience ever with Jesus. And it was genuine and it was real. And she gave all she had because she found what she was looking for. Hope you have a blessed week.